Welcome, everybody. Welcome to day 2 from SATE. Good morning. We're absolutely thrilled that you're back. You showed up again. It's a good sign. And from what I heard last night, everybody enjoyed day 1. The speakers were really fantastic. We're very pleased with how it turned out. You're going to be thrilled with today. It's equally as good.
We just want to say also thank you for coming to the mixer last night. We hope you had a good time. I'd love to hear, not now, but at a break, what you guys thought about the storytellers and that kind of idea. We took a risk and put that into the mixer. So if you have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear it and hope you had a good time.
I'm really pleased to announce our conversation with Scott Zeiger of Cirque du Soleil. I'm an old theater designer, set designer, used to come down in the city and design all the time. And recognizing the fact that Broadway is really the gold standard for live theatrical shows, and to have the bold move of Cirque du Soleil come here and present a performance, PARAMOUR, is really terrific. So I'm pleased to introduce François Bergeron from Thinkwell. He's a founder, a co-owner, and the COO. He will do a conversation with Scott Zeiger for the next hour.
Yes, so enjoy.
Wow, big crowd. Oh, Scott, do you want to?
Yep.
Just so we're more intimate and closer. Hello, everyone. So, Cirque du Soleil is a circus. By definition, this is a risk-taking entity. And they've been acquired lately by TPG.
Quietly acquired.
Quietly acquired.
Not really.
And by definition, this is a private investment firm, pretty averse to risk. So the conversation today is all about taking risks, and I just wanted to talk about that. So you started at Ringling Brothers, and you're closing the loop at Cirque du Soleil.
Hey, I'm not that old. Closing the loop.
Can you tell us, how did you go from Ringling Brothers to Cirque du Soleil on Broadway?
I thought I was going to be in the music business. I was producing rock concerts and big events at the University of Florida when I was a student. And I was working on my master's degree, and I produced this big show with Robin Williams. And Robin hosted our homecoming show. And he was doing Mork and Mindy. The World According to Garp was about to come out. I am actually old. And nobody really knew what he was all about. And he was incredibly vulgar and amazing at the same time. So the students went crazy. It was 90,000 people in our stadium, and the alumni just hated him. So the university president asked me to finish my master's degree elsewhere. So I got in my beat-up Camaro, and I drove to Sarasota, and I interviewed with Irvin Feld, who hired me that day to go on the road with him and be his assistant. He couldn't see very well. And I worked with them for 18 months. And while that's where I got my master's degree, really in live entertainment, not so much circus. And I went to visit my girlfriend in Houston. She was working for a company called Pace, which is a big concert promoter. And they recruited me on the spot because I said, I don't love Ringling Brothers so much. And they were starting a theatrical division. I started my theater career in 1985.
Oh, you're not that old. So after that, Pace?
Yeah.
And how did you end up on Broadway?
Well, Pace in Texas was a big regional promoter. We did all of the Broadway subscription series shows in Houston, and we expanded to Dallas, we expanded to New Orleans, we expanded to San Antonio, we expanded to Louisville and Columbus, Ohio, and Atlanta. And I worked for a very risk-taking entrepreneur, and over the course of my career, I ultimately became the president of the theatrical division. And then our company became the cornerstone acquisition of SFX Entertainment by Bob Sillerman. And then we grew that company, went public. I became the president of the theater division of SFX. We tucked in a bunch of other theatrical companies. That company was acquired by Clear Channel. Clear Channel Entertainment grew to become one of the largest live entertainment company on earth. I ran the theater company for them. And that theater company became vertically integrated. So not only did we present Broadway subscription series from coast to coast, we had 500,000 subscribers who paid us $500 a year to get a series of shows in their individual cities. We bought theaters. We owned a ticketing business. We owned a group sales business. We owned a merchandising business. And then Clear Channel decided to divest. I got to know Cirque pretty well, brokered a deal to bring them to Macau. I did an arena show with them called Delirium, and I produced a show called Wintuck. So I did some consulting, and we developed a business plan, and I thought they were going to hire my company to help them, and they said, no, we want to hire you. So I left my company, it was called Base Entertainment, and rejoined the circus to launch a theatrical business for them, to populate legitimate traditional theatrical stages around the world. And our first thing that we did was actually The Wiz on NBC television, which we hope to bring to Broadway next season. But it was really Danielle and Guy who said, let's do a signature show on Broadway. Let's put Cirque du Soleil's name 100% over title. And
Excellent. So, Paramour on Broadway.
Yeah.
We could, hey, Joe, could you run the clip?
Welcome to the golden age. Tucks and tails, it's all the rage. Brought to life upon a stage with magic. He is the master of captivating scripts. Every week it's proven at the box office. I'm the Hollywood Wiz. I'm the Hollywood Wiz. On that screen, he's the greatest there is. He's the Hollywood Wiz. I'm the Hollywood Wiz. And I'm the best director in the whole damn thing. He's Hollywood. He's Hollywood. He's Hollywood. He's Hollywood. Now that's show business.
Excellent. I got to tell you, I started with Cirque in 1990, and my last show was Iris in Los Angeles. I saw the show last night, and I don't know what it is. Is it a musical? Is it Cirque? It's a new genre. It's definitely a big departure for Cirque du Soleil. Can you tell us a little bit about the risk involved in doing something new on Broadway?
yeah, it's, we like to refer to ourselves who work in the theater business as a industry filled with masochists, because, the success percentage, is like 20% of a show on Broadway, 20%. Which is why so many Broadway shows start with a well-known intellectual property. They'll theatricalize a well-known film or a well-known book or a well-known character in history like Alexander Hamilton. But to start from something literally from scratch is really, really risky business. So I wish, Francois, you could be in our ad meetings, because that's what we debated as well. This is the first time Cirque du Soleil has ever actually tried to tell, with words that are in English and songs that are sung with lyrics that are English, not gibberish, a linear story, one with a beginning, a middle, and an end, one with deep character depth. Well, deep-ish, but character depth, where you can root for people. There's got to be a hero, there's got to be a villain, there's got to be a love story. There are checkpoints in every Broadway show that the traditional theater audience is looking for. And it is a hybrid, because the way we built this show, and Francois, with your history at Cirque, our chief creative officer, his name is Jean-François Bouchard, he gave me a acrobatic skeleton. And he said, these are the things that you have. You have those incredible twins that are aerialists. You have these banking acts. You have these Chinese pole acts. You have this teeterboard act. You know, you need X many minutes between these numbers to rest the athletes or they're going to get hurt. There's a skeleton. It literally is like a Byzantine puzzle. And then he hands it to us and says, all right, create your Broadway show. Hire composers, hire lyricists, hire book writers, hire directors, and weave a story through that keeps people, you know, glued to their seat, not just for the acrobatic, extraordinary variety shows that we do under the big top, or a bit more linear out in Las Vegas, but they're more thematic than linear. So this is truly a linear story. So we actually call Paramore a Cirque du Soleil musical. Not a Broadway musical, not a musical comedy. Hopefully we'll call it a Tony Award-winning Cirque du Soleil musical. but it is its own genre. You know, clearly when we first opened, the folks that populated the theater were full-on Cirque du Soleil fans from around the world. They see Cirque du Soleil, something new, it's in New York, they bought tickets. The theater goers, the millions of theater goers that come to New York, that live in New York, that consume and love Broadway theater have been slower to come.
Right.
You know, we're full, you were there last night, but arguably we have a larger share of the international market than the other Broadway shows. Because even if you don't speak English perfectly, you can still understand what's going on. But slowly but surely, the Broadway audience is coming, and they're kind of letting their inhibitions go a bit, and absorbing our show for the pure entertainment value. But I dare you to have a better time in a Broadway house. I mean, it's pretty good fun.
It's very entertaining. The one thing that I'm not sure everyone knows, I mean, it's already very complex and difficult to do a Broadway musical, a play, anything. But the difficulty of running a show day to day where people actually do the acts and they get injured. I believe that the Broadway theater crowd practitioners said, wow, these guys are crazy. And everyone on the circus side, wow, these guys are crazy. Because you have to run this every day, and if someone gets injured, well, in the big top or when you do a show in Vegas, there's always another act that can slide in. But this is an intricate part of the show. How do you manage that? If someone gets injured, how do you replace them without canceling the show?
It's wildly complicated. In a traditional Broadway production, you have, let's say, a cast of 28, a musical. You'll have 2 or 3 swings or standbys that can go into any chorus part. And you sometimes have leads that are covered out of the chorus. So if the female lead is out, one of the other great chorus people knows that role and can step in, and it fills in. You're right, with a Cirque du Soleil show that has a signature number that is helping tell the story. Right. If it's eliminated or cut, there's a hole in the story. Unlike Vegas, where you can fill in another act or just cut it.
Right.
Just cut it, show shorter. Our stage manager's report that we get every night is actually fascinating read. Like, if we could publish the stage manager's reports as a book for the first year, for a theater geek, it would be great reading. Because literally every night, this one's covering that, this one's covering that, this acrobat's covering this one, this guy twisted his ankle, can't do teeterboard, but can do banking, he can be a porter, this one. And we have PMed, we have physical therapy and medical therapy backstage in our theater every day. We have full-time in-house medical facility, massage tables. No other show has that. We have a standby act. We do. We have, there's a signature number in our show called Hand to Trapeze. We invented it.
Right.
Okay? So the show, you can't really tell from the clip a little bit, is a love triangle. And if you go see Oklahoma or you see American in Paris, there are these very traditional things on Broadway called dream ballets. Mm-hmm. So you're in the principal's subconscious and you're visualizing what they're dreaming-ish. So our dream ballet is acrobatic. So we have our three principals singing our sort of I love you, you love me, who am I going to be with? And we're representing it with trapeze. And the trapeze act is a man up on the wire and a porter on the ground and a woman who is literally thrown between them, back and forth, representing the love triangle. So 3 months into our run, Miriam, an amazing actress and a gymnast, injured her rib. And we hadn't been running long enough to train anybody to do this. It's very, very specific. So we had to just vocalize it. And because we didn't have an acrobat to replace it. And it really, I thought, hurt the show. So we made the decision and trained another trio, which cost me $8,000 more a week, because to stand by. Because you can't just have a woman standing by or a man standing by. They're trained to work together as an act.
Right.
And it's very, very complicated. The twins, our flyers, you know this, you know them probably.
I know them very well. Yeah.
Those incredible athletes are 41 years old. They've never missed a performance ever, their whole lives, ever. And now, I've got to touch some wood or they're going to miss tonight, but they're really incredible. So we do have safeguards, but we have 45 people on stage. We have double a traditional Broadway musical because we have an acrobatic core and we have an acting core.
Right.
And it's complicated. Every day is complicated.
Yeah, and it's absolutely, once you know the matrix and the air traffic controller aspect of this whole machine, it's beautiful. It's really kudos to you. That's a lot of risk to take every night. Can you tell us a little bit about the rehearsal? How did you rehearse? Because this is not a custom-built theater. This is not something that you can do somewhere else. How did you get to the theater?
Well, any show, Broadway play, musical, off-Broadway, you name it, you even said it, rehearse. I don't know if you threw me a layup, but at Cirque du Soleil, rehearsal is not called rehearsal, it's called creation. And which is a different word, which means longer rehearsal. So creation equals longer rehearsal, which means that our creative, normally in a Broadway show, typically the script and score are created first. Here's the script, here's the score, the producer reads it, you listen to the music, you go, okay, I'll do it. Then you have a table reading with some actors that you hire. Then you hire a director. Then you do a 29-hour reading, which is a term used with Actors Equity on a specific kind of device where you can work with them and they can help create the material, but they don't have any ownership. Then you do a workshop, and you'll do in a small studio, and you'll work out the material. Then maybe you'll go to a regional theater. Okay? Then maybe you'll do an out-of-town commercial tryout. Then you'll come to Broadway. Not Cirque. What Cirque did with Paramore is a long creation process and a long preview period, which essentially combined all of those things into one. So you mentioned Iris in Los Angeles. There were a few set elements and signature pieces that we liked from Iris. We co-opted that material. And as you can see from the clip, we needed an enormous space. So while this beast was loading into the Lyric Theater, we rented a movie studio in Long Island. Actually, the Wiz, where we shot for Thanksgiving, they loaded out the TV set and we loaded in Paramore. And we put our people on Long Island Rail every day from Manhattan. We had vans meet them at the train station out in Long Island, and we drove them to the movie studio. And we had 3 sound stages. So in one sound stage we had the aerial, in another sound stage we had the film strip box, in another area we had all the mats out. We built the sets out of plywood, and we rehearsed it in pieces, okay? And then when we actually wanted to run through it before we moved into the theater, the creative team and me and Jean-Francois would watch a number, and then we would all get up and go to another room and watch another number, and then we would go to another room and watch another number. We could never see it contiguously until we moved into the Lyric. So the normal rehearsal period for a Broadway musical would be about 7 weeks. It would be about 4 or 5 weeks of proper rehearsal in a studio and learning everything, acting, and so forth. And then 2 weeks of tech, where you're focusing lights, you're doing sound balance, you're working on the backstage choreography, the air traffic control. So we were 16 weeks of rehearsal, and then 2 weeks of tech, additional tech, 5 weeks of previews before we got to opening night. So we started January 2nd, and our opening night was May 25th.
So you've never seen the show until you were in the theater.
That was very risky, yes. The answer is
How
yes.
did you sleep at night?
I really don't know how we pulled it off, but and our director was from Paris, and he preferred to speak only in French, which made it all the more complicated, because I do not speak French, and he does speak English.
How, speaking of the creative team,
Yeah.
how did they come up with the new acts? How, I guess it's Jean-Francois Bouchard who.
Yeah, I mean, Jean-Francois Bouchard, Shayna Carroll, who is a director that we like, an acrobatic director that we like very much. They sort of curated it in a way.
So, but you mentioned earlier that there were new acts created for this show, and I know that these acts that you don't come up with an act in 5 weeks.
Sure. Well, the Hand to Trapeze Act was the first day we started training in the studio. We probably had 4 weeks in Montreal before that,
Okay.
training the hand to trapeze.
Right.
And again, you know, when you see the show, I hope that many of you do, it's not a traditional Cirque show where it's extraordinary act, comedy, small act, big act. The majority of the performers are generalists who can do multiple disciplines. So the teeterboard artists can also do trampoline. The unicyclists are also great dancers. You know, like we hired people that could do multiple disciplines. Even the twins, who are circus stars in their own right, wanted to be in the rest of the show. So they're waiters in the bar scene. They're slaves in the, you know, they're like, they do all kinds of scenes, and we all kind of work together. But it was very complicated to make it work. And when you layer on top of it that we brought in a pop composer, his name is Andreas Carlson, who wrote everything from, he writes songs for Celine Dion and Katy Perry. He wrote Baby Bye Bye for the, you know, for NSYNC. Anyway, he's got this incredible wonderkind from Sweden, and we brought him in, and he could, like the old days, literally, we'd say, oh my God, we need a 2-minute love song right here to cover the installation of the battery packs for the drones. Yes, that's one sentence. And he would go into the basement studio at the Lyric Theater and write it. And then he would email it to the conductor in the pit, and it would be on stage in 2 hours.
That alone that's an art, just to do that.
Yeah, and we work with Bob and Bill, who are working on a lot of Cirque shows, and they did sort of the orchestrations and the orchestral stuff, and they worked together with Andreas to create the soundscape. And our book writer was in the room changing lines continuously.
Now, all of this, I mean, Broadway has been running for many, many years. There's a specific order of things. There's union, and by definition, Cirque has a special status, I guess, in the Constitution or something, but they're not union. So how did it work to bring a group that has been functioning without any union for 25, 26 years with this machine that is Broadway?
Well, it goes back to the opening statement of managing risk. We knew that to do a show on Broadway, we would be organized. I mean, you can come to New York, do a show for 6 weeks over Christmas as a special event. Unions don't care. You know, they're fine. They're going to let you come in sort of like a concert attraction. But on Broadway, you know, the backbone of the theater community are the unions. Local 1, IATSE, the Wardrobe Union, the Box Office Union, the Treasurers Union, you know, your food that's being catered for lunch is the Culinary Union. It's just the way it works here. So once you set foot in a Broadway stage, you're organized, and we knew that. And when Cirque du Soleil had played at Radio City Music Hall, not in the Big Top, but at Radio City, for an extended period in a show called Zarkena, AGVA, which is variety artists, claimed jurisdiction. The same jurisdiction that they have over the Rockettes. And we were fine, we understood that. We have a good relationship with AGVA. So when we came to a Broadway house, we intended to make everybody AGVA. And those rules, the reason we wanted to be AGVA is the union rules allow for more latitude in rehearsal time, working late at night. It's more relaxed with respect to mounting the show. And it's more cognizant of the fact that these are specialty artists. They're not just singer, dancer, actors. They may be aerialists, or they may be, you know, tap on toe and things like that. Very different.
Right.
So we could never do the show purely equity because of the work rules. Simple as that. So we said, we're going with AGVA. And then first day of rehearsal, bang, 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 bang. Who's at my door? Actors Equity. And if you see, you know, a lot of you from around the country, but here in New York, when the unions don't like you, they blow up this gigantic rat. and they put it right in front of your front door, and the policemen's union allows them to do this. And it's common practice, literally go to a construction site, you're gonna see a rat, it's bad for business, okay? Really bad for business. And you've got to settle your union dispute before they deflate the rat. And the rat is 20 feet tall. And there are usually large people around it with plaques yelling at anybody who comes in. So we didn't want that. So we began a negotiation with Actors Equity almost immediately, very friendly actually, and the long and short of it, I won't bore you with the details, is we have a split company. Half the cast is AGVA, half the cast is Actors Equity. And the way we were able to make that happen was that Actors Equity agreed to the work rules that we had for AGVA. But everybody's pension plan is paid differently. we tried to coordinate holidays. It was complicated and a steep legal bill, but it worked out well. The division of the company that is producing Paramore is Cirque du Soleil Theatrical, set up specifically for this. So the union jurisdiction doesn't migrate to the other companies.
Right.
But we've had a great working relationship. I think the union leadership will tell you that we negotiated a fair and equitable agreement, and literally, again, I hope you see Paramore. Every employee that you see there is a union employee. I like every other Broadway house.
That's
By the way, it's expensive.
which explains the price of the ticket. But sorry.
Wait. How much did you pay, François?
Oh, nice. Well done. Well done. So walking the tightrope with the unions. Well done. What about the musicians? I'm a sound designer in the past, and I know that it's always been the music at Cirque and the soundscape is very much part of every show. Obviously, a musical. How did you deal with this? Because the orchestral composition
Yes.
is a big thing, and I don't know if you have the.
So we have a full orchestra in the pit. They're AF of M,
Okay.
of course. And we had our musical director and most of our band, our musical director and a sort of shell of a band all through rehearsal, who would on the fly make changes. And these are experienced MDs who work in Cirque du Soleil land. So, they know how to vamp
Right.
if an act isn't working or if someone gets injured or, it's not just missing a sound cue. It's a much broader discipline.
Right.
And so they're there, and then we essentially auditioned a band. So unlike, again, many Broadway shows have, let's say, an orchestra pit. They've got, X many musicians. They have the charts. And people can call out sick, just like or take vacations. And the union, one of the benefits of having a union is you get super skilled people. So in order to be in the musicians union, you've got to be a great, wind instrument player, a great keyboardist. So you call up the union or your musical contractor, and they send you a replacement who can read the charts and play the show.
Not at Cirque, though.
Not at Cirque. So we have a band that is finely tuned and rehearsed as a band. So if there are, sicknesses or holidays we plan for, but if there are sicknesses, we have to bring in another union member, but they don't play too much.
Right.
They'll play what they can, but the other band members make up that difference.
I see.
Again, very complicated. I know that the theme is walking the tightrope, right? Isn't that one of the themes of
Yes,
this event?
sir.
Well, the theme of our show is walking the tightrope of the heart. We thought that would be a good play on words. But yeah, we walk the tightrope every night. I literally hold my breath every time I open the stage manager's report to see who got hurt and what we had to cut and what was in and what was out. And I'm not kidding. I think 3 days ago was the first time since opening night that the entire company was on stage.
Nice.
First time.
Congratulations.
It's really, and you wouldn't know it in the audience,
Right.
but it's a big deal. We're very proud of it.
Rehearsal, I just want to go back to the moment. I think, Joe, we have a clip from the rehearsal, right?
Yeah.
Can we show that?
Coming and working in Broadway is a kind of dream.
I like to think of it as the best of both worlds, the best of Cirque du Soleil and the best of Broadway.
Paramore is about love.
A young actress in the 1940s rises to fame as a movie star, and she has to choose between the love of millions or the love of one man.
The mix between the dancers, singers, and the acrobats is going to be seamless.
So we're actually taking all of these different elements and melding them all together for the show.
I love working with acrobats because they always surpass the original intention.
There's many things that acrobatics can say that you can't say in words. Like when you're swept off your feet because you fall in love, we can actually literally sweep people off their feet.
What I'm hoping for is that an audience looks at it and their first impulse is that I want to do it. The second one is I better not try.
I'm so proud to be here and to work on Broadway. We'll create a new art form which can be very beautiful, I hope.
So from this, lots of scenes from Montreal, the rehearsal space and all that. What was your process to actually have a linear storyline? Because this is not something that Cirque does. So what was the process?
Well, the first thing was to convince our corporate parent, and at the time, Guy Laliberté still was the majority owner, that the only way we could come to Broadway and run more than 12 weeks, if we wanted to run open-ended, and to compete against Wicked and Hamilton and the Book of Mormon, was to have a linear story. Because Broadway ticket buyers, Broadway consumers require it, need it, want the emotional, cathartic response at the end, want that gratification of the story as much as they want spectacle. Pure spectacle is fine for a limited time, but if you want to run, we have to connect to the audience in a different way. So hurdle one was convincing our ownership. Hurdle two was finding collaborators that could make it work. Philippe, who you saw in the clip, is one of the most highly regarded Parisian choreographers, and his vision is always sort of the pictures on stage, is the beauty of what you're seeing. And he cares, quite frankly, not so much about the story. It's less important to him, which is why we had West, the other director that you saw up there, coordinating the scenes to making sure that the book scenes connected in a proper way. And we knew that Philippe liked working with the motion picture or film style and incorporating film into the show itself. So we engaged a team of writers to literally create a story that we thought would connect the dots. And we knew, not so much formulaic, but we knew there needed to be a love story, and we knew there needed to be conflict, and we knew that there needed to be a time period that was distinctive, that gave the characters motivation and the costumes relevance and all that. So we reverse engineered it, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you're going to go to this, but we got it mostly right.
Absolutely.
All right. So when we opened the show at the end of May, and the theater was filled every night with Cirque fans, half of which the audience didn't speak English, or certainly it wasn't their first language, but they loved it. But we stood in the back of the theater, and we knew that it wasn't connecting to theater audiences the way we hoped. We literally ran out of time, quite frankly. During the rehearsal process, during the previews process, we're shaking it all out, doing all the things that a normal Broadway show does on its long journey to New York, we were doing in 6 months.
Right.
And it still wasn't enough time. It's very hard to do these things. So we went to the new ownership of the company, TPG, along with the Cirque executives, and presented them the idea of retooling the show and saying, beautiful sets, beautiful costumes, great songs, great performers, but the story, the words that people are saying, they're good, but they're one-dimensional. You know, there's a linear story for sure, but it doesn't fill in all the holes. It doesn't touch all the points that Broadway audiences have come to love. So we brought in more book writers, and we essentially took the show from, that clip was done early in the run, which is a pretty serious show. It was fun and lots of wow factor throughout, but it was serious. It took itself very serious. And we tweaked it and made it a musical comedy. And gave it, the characters more depth, gave them more humanity, made them funnier. Right. We brought in a new act. What you didn't see in this clip is a unicycle act that we brought in because we literally speak to our audiences every day. We do focus groups, we do one-on-one interviews, we email most of our customers after they buy a ticket and ask them if they'll complete a survey. We probably get 500 data points a week from audience members on what they like and what they didn't like. And after the summer, we had enough critical mass of response that we decided to retool the show.
You closed the show, right?
Closed the show for only 4 days.
That's still risky on Broadway. Risky with the new owners.
Cost me $1 million. So we closed the show after we gave all the cast members new scripts 3 or 4 days before we closed the show. We worked with them in the studio for a few days during the day and performed. But the reason we have to close the show to make the changes is that during the day, in order to do a Cirque du Soleil show, the acrobats have to train 90 minutes a day on the stage. They must, just like an Olympic gymnast, trains every day. So you have your show call, 4 hours. You have your acrobatic call, 1.5 hours, that's 5.5 hours. And then that gives you basically 2.5 more hours to rehearse. That new material, not including put-in rehearsals for understudies or anything like that, or maintenance. So we pre-planned this within an inch of its life, and then we went down for 4 days. And for those 4 days, we had 9 hours a day for 4 days to make the changes, where we didn't have to train or do a show at night or have a show call. So in those 4 days, we retooled 80% of the dialogue. We put in a unicycle act. We changed the lighting in a number of pieces. We changed the choreography in a number of pieces. And since we did that, which has been 5 weeks, we have a barometer where we gauge audience response from their feedback. 25% improved already after only 5 weeks. It's getting better and better. And you were there last night. We were sold out last night. I think that I think we nailed it. We have a few more things we're going to do in early December. We're not going to close the show again, but a few more tweaks we're going to make. But again, something that I learned after joining Cirque, after a career in theater of many decades, there's something at Cirque called refresh.
Right.
Like creation. And we did this refresh after 5 months, which is something that Cirque normally does after 5 years. They'll go in and refresh costumes or sound equipment or, a new act. But we think we've made a big difference. And the Tony voters are coming to see the show now. We're getting really positive feedback from them. So I'm very pleased, and we're already doing something that Cirque du Soleil has never done, and we're in active negotiations to license and replicate the show in other world markets. So when the prior owner, when Guy ran the business, his mandate was that every show would be singular. You know, if you want to see O, you can only see it at Bellagio. If you want to see La Nuba, you can only see it in Orlando at Disney. If you want to see Curios, which is playing here in New York at Randall's Island, there's only one. Whereas in the live theater industry, if you want to see Wicked tonight or Lion King, there are 10 of them around the world that are identical, absolutely the same, except for maybe language. So Paramore is the first show that is actually going to be replicated. And we're in active negotiations in Hamburg, Germany, and in Tokyo, and we're just now exploring China to replicate the show.
Fantastic. You're talking about future things. I'm cognizant of the time, and I'm sure that people have questions for you.
Sure.
What's in the near future for Cirque du Soleil? So far, Cirque has, some say, has reinvented the circus years ago and throughout the years. Then the water shows, then the magic shows, then the adult shows, then the intellectual property, the Beatles' love and Michael Jackson's and all this. What's the future in terms of branded and non-branded Cirque du Soleil things?
Sure. Well, we have a whole portfolio of new material that we're working on. I think we're experts in creating new creative content and pushing the envelope always. There are two folks here that are part of the conference, Martin Boudreau and Amy Lareau. No, they're here in the audience. They are spearheading for Cirque du Soleil, our first ever theme park that we're building in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, that will be opening in 2018 with Vedante developer, beautiful resort. It's going to be extraordinary, somewhat more ethereal than a traditional theme park, but it's very, very exciting. It's in full development. We're doing lots of other things, but one of the things that we're doing actually with Thinkwell is the first ever production that won't have any performers in it. Together with Thinkwell, who's doing a lot of our content, David Rockwell, who is our master planner, Martinez and Johnson's our architect consultants, and Shawmut, our general contractor. We have made a deal with the National Football League. And this will be, as you might say, white label, but because of our love of the league and what they've done to bolster that brand and the kind of uber entertainment they create, and our creativity and all the things that we do, we've been able to create a marriage, and we are building the NFL experience in Times Square. And it's pretty extraordinary. It'll be an event like none other on earth. It'll be a full, you'll walk through it. You'll immerse yourself in the world of football lore, the players, the heroes, the journey from, kids in the backyard to high school to college to being drafted to making it as a player. It'll be fully authentic. The NFL is our partner. NFL Films is our partner. There'll be a fully immersive theater with moving seats in the theater. And it's fitting that we're here at 7th Avenue and 51st Street. If you go outside this building and make a left and walk 5 blocks, there's a building under construction at the corner. Beautiful new Ian Schrager designed Edition Hotel by Marriott. And we're taking the first 4 floors and we're creating this event. We get the keys from the developer, Steve Wyckoff, on November 1st of this year, and November 1st of next year we'll soft open. We actually have a quick trailer to show you what we're up to together.
Watch that. I couldn't tell you anything. I'm glad you mentioned it because I have non-disclosure agreements. Let's watch the clip.
That's okay. I don't know why that picture came up. So, gotta love NFL films, right? They're awesome. So we break ground November 1st of this year, and it's funny, the way that project came about was Danielle Amar, the president of our parent company, asked a number of us to come up with ideas to help MGM Grand with some of their open spaces. So we made up this idea, and Danielle presented them, 30 ideas, and they circled this one. And we didn't know anybody at the NFL, and so we just cold called them, and began the dialogue. And we flew them out to Vegas, and they saw our shows, and they went, we love it, we love it, we love it. We're doing a deal, we signed the deal, except we don't want to do it in Las Vegas. And they said, we can't build this incredible structure with their sports book, at least not the first one. So we said, okay, how about New York? And they went, great. So we went on a search, and we found this incredible property just up the street.
Well, that's definitely another risky business. I tip my hat because you seem, every project you do, you push the envelope. So thank you. At this point, I think we have a few minutes left. We should...
Feel free to take some extra time for questions because I know people are going to want to have questions.
Perfect.
Please take the time.
Any questions from the audience? We have people with microphones. There's someone in the middle.
Could you talk a little bit more about the theme park that you're designing? And
Martin is right behind you, and he should respond.
This is a theme park that will, as Scott said, will open in November 2018 in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. 2 years ago, we opened our first project with this amazing partner, Vidanta. This is a dinner show that is located in Cancun. So that was the first step of our relationship with them. But the goal was to move quickly to the next phase, which is opening that park in Puerto Vallarta. Yeah, Vidanta is a resort operator. This is a resort where they already have about 3,000 rooms. And inside the park and surrounding the park, they're going to add another 1,000 rooms, more or less. It's going to be a large water park, entertainment destination at night, and obviously a show from Cirque du Soleil as well.
Any other questions? One over there.
Thank you. Scott, I'm sorry if this puts you a little on the spot, but I'm just curious, the new trend that we're seeing in Broadway with the production companies sharing the profits with the actors who are involved in the original production. Obviously, this has been an extremely expensive production for you with the extra week that you guys have had to take off when you first opened the show and having double the size of the company. But is that something that you see potentially happening for this original cast in the future?
Well, yeah, there are two shows that have done that. One being Hamilton, and two, Disney has made a deal for the yet-to-be cast performers in Frozen. We haven't discussed that for a number of reasons, primarily because the acrobats in Cirque du Soleil shows many times will work on the development of a show for 2 years. And it's part of the process. The formation of a Cirque show is such that the actors themselves can stay with the show forever, as long as they're physically able to do it. That the acrobats in Cirque shows many times have a lifetime career in our organization. So if they're unable to be a flyer anymore, but they're still capable of being a porter, we may move them to another show. So we cast our net wide and global, and the people that like us and we like them, we tend to employ for decades. So it's just sort of, it's different than, doing the workshop of Frozen and figuring out the line to say yourself, the actor, essentially being a minor role player in the authorship of that piece. So I guess the short answer is no. The long answer is we hope to employ all these people forever. The twins, for example, have been in 3 Cirque du Soleil shows, and they're not paid scale. Let's put it that way. They're paid as principals, which is different than the people in Frozen or Hamilton. Most of those folks that were, wanting sort of a continuing participation, most of those were chorus people who helped develop the characters and develop the piece. So, the long answer is that. The short answer is no.
And I can attest to that. There's some good friends of mine that actually have been with the circus for 20 plus years. So there's definitely a long lifespan, and they're recast in other roles. Any other questions? There's someone
up there.
Oh, sorry, we'll go to you after.
Can you talk a little bit about the technology? I know I saw the pictures of the lamppost drones.
Oh, thank you. I forgot to ask about that, the rate of success or failure of drones.
Well, we did a development deal with a studio in Sweden called Verity, and they created this drone technology for us. They've never failed, ever. I'm going to have to find some more wood. The failure for me, if there is any failure, any issue, is that the fire marshal won't let us fly them over the audience. So there are other shows like the rock band Muse or the Summer Spectacular at Radio City that flew drones over the audience, but they were blimps, essentially. They were, if the engine failed and they floated to the audience on the top of people's heads, they'd literally just bounce off. These are essentially lampshades with 4 propellers that are fully exposed. And the fire marshal won't let us fly them even because of the momentum any closer than 3 or 4 feet from the edge of the stage. So if, God forbid, the engine failed while it was flying, they've like done this ratio analysis on where they would ultimately glide and fall. So the initial choreography was so remarkable that the audience didn't know they were drones. The audience completely believed that these were beautifully hidden wires choreographing these beautiful illuminated fixtures. Part of the refresh is we brought in Verity Studios again, re-choreographed it to make it completely clear to everyone in the audience that there is something they should be applauding for, you know? Like, this is something really cool, everybody. This is not, you know, just a bunch of scenery flying around. These are actually drones. And for those of you that are going to see the show, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The very end of the number, we're like, God, what can we do? What can we do?
Don't blow the punch.
All right, well, there's something that we do now at the end of the drone number where you're going to hear the audience go, oh.
It's a very elegant solution.
Yeah.
And it
works. Could not be simpler. So the good news is they've not failed. The good news is that it's the one thing that the unions allow us to rehearse overnight. Because, you know, we just have guys basically with their laptops, you know. And they've worked really well. They're beautiful. And we intend to use drones again and this drone technology in other Cirque du Soleil shows. This is the first one.
There was a question in the back. Oh, well, I mean, for you, sir.
So first of all, congratulations. It's gorgeous and stunning.
Thanks.
Did you build off of any of the learnings from Banana Peel, or was that kind of the genesis for creating this more largely developed Broadway show?
Everything that Banana Spiel did, we decided that we wouldn't do. That's what we learned. I didn't work for the company during the Banana Spiel experiment. For those of you that don't know, Banana Spiel was Cirque du Soleil's take on a vaudeville show. And it was going to run open-ended or for extended periods of time at the Beacon Theater in New York and at the Chicago Theater, which were 2 theaters owned by Madison Square Garden Entertainment. They also owned the Wang in Boston. And it was a show they were using to try to fill space. And again, I wasn't around for that. It was not a linear story. It was a variety show with shticky jokes that didn't work. So, gosh, I was hoping I wouldn't have to mention that word in here, but it's a sore subject at the parent company. It was not a success. It was one of the few true failures of the Cirque organization was Banana Spiel. I can say that out loud.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
We have time for one more question.
Yeah, let's not end on that one, please. Please.
Hi. Do I understand correctly that you've partnered with a university to perhaps develop initial material? And if that's so, could you talk about that a bit?
The university programs that we have, one in North Carolina, is really for labor. It's not for the acts. It's not for the acrobats or singers, dancers, actors, but it's for riggers. It's stage technology. And anybody who comes out of that program, we hire if they want a job. So no, we don't develop artistic content with any schools, but we do seed scholarship programs, and we pay for this program. I think it's UNC, where they're fully trained, and because it's a very unique skill set on how we mount our shows. It's not a bad idea. There is the Circus School, the university in Montreal, directly across the street from our campus, and we're an open door for casting, and we see everything they create. And I know that Cirque du Soleil, particularly Guy Laliberté, helped build that school, but in the United States, it's just technology and technical labor.
All right. Well, thank you. Cirque du Soleil has always been wrapped in some kind of secrecy on their process and how they do things. So thank you, Scott, for revealing a little bit of those risk-taking stories.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Great.